Hi guys. Hi Anissa. Long time no see. Can you guys hear me?
Hi,
Yes,
Jeff.
Vincent.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm doing much, much, much better now.
What happened to you, Anissa?
A few weeks ago, I developed an upper respiratory infection and it progressed really, really rapidly. And it just kind of took over. It wasn't COVID, thank God. I did get COVID, about 3 years ago when it first dropped, I should say. I live in Atlanta, so it was kind of hard to not be exposed because we didn't really shut down here. So thankfully, this time wasn't COVID, but they couldn't really pinpoint. So they just told me it was upper respiratory. It ended up developing really, really, really badly, and I was incapacitated. I couldn't move. It was almost like the flu. It was kind of like yours, like it was like a flu, but there wasn't much I could do, and I actually had to, get a couple MRIs, and tomorrow I'm going to the neurologist just to make sure that it hasn't done any lasting or, damaging
Mhm.
effects. But yeah, I mean, I could I could barely breathe and I could barely eat. I couldn't really talk. And it was just really, really bad, to be honest.
I see, I
So
see.
I'm grateful now. I think right now the most I still have is I have this very moderate headache that just
Mhm.
refuses to go away. So I do have an appointment tomorrow actually with the neurologist. So I'm looking forward to kind of pinpointing and seeing if there's anything that I could do about that. But yeah, they had me like on antibiotics and
Mhm.
just like 4 different medications, and I've been miserable, but I actually feel great. The
Mhm.
last 2 or 3 days, I've been up and active and kind of, able to live my life again.
But were you
So,
active before you got that problem? Are
yes,
you
I'm
physically
actually
active?
very active. I go to work, I go to the
Mhm.
gym. I eat pretty healthy. I do have my moments where, I have my taste for some junk food sometimes, but I'm actually like overall pretty
Mhm.
healthy. And that was the problem. I had to go to the emergency room that night when they admitted me, and they
Mhm.
actually kept me overnight because they couldn't pinpoint what was going on, and they said that I was exhibiting signs of stroke.
Oh, wow.
um, and they were so surprised because my age and
Mhm.
my reports, my blood reports, all of my levels and everything was perfect. However, I couldn't stand up for much longer than 2 or 3 minutes without
Mhm.
pretty much seeing stars, and my equilibrium was shot. It was really bad.
I see, I see. Well, hopefully, you'll get better, Anissa. And again, it's nice to have you again here. You most significant number of classes, particularly with SQL. However,
Sequel, yes.
yeah, we have the we have the recordings in our YouTube channel that you can easily go back and watch. Here's what we'll do. Um I'll be extending. How do I say this? Yeah, I'll give you some time to go over those videos. So we'll be extending the cohort for you. I mean, we'll not be having any live session, but I'll be waiting for when you can finish all of the requirements and all of the exams, because the reason why you failed to join um, the session is something out of your control, right?
Right.
Life happens. So yeah, we'll do that, and I'll be available for any of your questions. So we'll keep the connection, okay, Anissa, even
Okay.
after the cohort. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah, sure. Um,
I
let me
did
check.
get I believe I got the first 2 or 3 SQL sessions. So I did get to learn as far as creating graphs. I know we did a couple of activities on the I can't remember the site right now. I have it pulled up. But I did do, I think the first 2 days we had labs with John, and I was becoming very comfortable with that early intro to the SQL, all of the as far as parameters, establishing the parameters and things like that. So that's kind of where I have been. But I was telling John I wasn't able to access the Skillspire playlist, but I did get access to the YouTube playlist. So I've been kind of reviewing over that.
Okay.
For the last 2 days, I've been able to now.
Mm.
So
Yes. So the good thing about going over the recordings is that you can like repeat it all over again. You can go back to like the thing if something is unclear, and then I'll be keeping the connection with you so that if something is confusing, I can clarify them. And let me see the exams. So you'll be needing to take those. The group
okay,
just finished the SQL final exam, and I tweaked it a
okay,
bit. I made it a bit challenging because the level of the students in this course is really advanced, I should say, as compared to the previous one. So I upped the challenge a bit. I made it in a way that it will go over through the majority of the things that we discussed. And yeah, I hope. Well, let's hear from Grace later and the others about how they felt about the exam. So yeah, you need to take all of that, and
okay,
in order to get the certification. Uh, yeah, but we'll be giving you sufficient time to do that. I'll be connecting with the student success advisor regarding this. I'll make sure that
okay,
they're aware of your situation. So yeah, don't worry. But again, it's nice that you'll be able to join the Python session as well as the statistics because these two subjects they are really I should say challenging, um, especially if this like the first time that you'll be doing programming. So yeah.
yes.
So yep. Hi Grace. So
Hi,
let me ask
I
you.
kind of caught in halfway there. Can I just, from my nosiness, ask what happened? You were in the hospital?
Yes, Grace. I had an upper respiratory infection that developed into, I don't even know. The doctors didn't give it a name either, but they kind of had me on a course of some medications over the last few weeks because I went from literally having like a stuffy nose and thinking that, I just needed to go and get some cough medicine to not being able to, breathe or really stand up. And so what I was telling Jeff and John was I do have an appointment to go to the neurologist actually tomorrow because we don't really know what's going on. And I've always kind of been in good health standing.
Yeah. Did they rule out long COVID and stuff?
So actually, I had long COVID and they are looking to see if it's just that because I was telling them I did suffer from that for a little while. It lasted about a year or so. And they're trying to see if whatever I have recently gotten, is also contributing. I didn't have COVID. I tested and it wasn't COVID, but the brain fog and the wooziness and the inability. I mean, it was bad. Okay, that's fine. Just go put that away, baby. Please, I'm in class.
Glad to hear you're doing
That's fine.
better.
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to add that things outside, what's happening in the world right now. There are so many this new diseases that are just coming out of the blue. I just saw this article from I forgot the source, but they identified a new disease called Hex. disease X that could be potentially uh, a new thing that could trigger another pandemic.
Ugh.
So things are really really worrying. Not sure why. Maybe because of the things that we did to the environment, and it's somehow backfiring to us. So we need to be really careful. We need to avoid stress. But the problem is you're taking my class, so um,
That's what the doctor said. The doctor said, as far as until we can kind of pinpoint exactly
mm,
maybe what we can name it, try to keep your stress levels low. And I told him, I am in a
yeah.
statistics class and I am a full-time mom. So the likelihood of that. And then honestly, again, I don't know if you guys are familiar with how badly Atlanta and Georgia we did during the pandemic, but
Mm,
just know nothing was enforced. We were one of the few states that people were able to travel to, and I will never forget during COVID, I lived in a loft in Midtown,
mm.
and I remember looking outside at the lounge that was located, and they were fully operational at full capacity. And one night, I looked outside and I was standing on my balcony and I yelled down. I said, "Hey, like, what are you guys here for? What are you celebrating?" And they're like, "Oh, girl, we're just here from Philly because you guys are wide open." And, so I'm kind of already in one of those places
They
where most of the population they don't care anyways.
they were
So it makes it a
YOLOing,
lot harder.
Anissa. They were YOLOing.
They were YOLOing like YOLO, I mean, like YOLO was gonna pay the bills. That's what they were doing. They took their disaster loan funds and they got on a plane ticket and they came here. And, even now
Well,
people kind of look at me funny because I still wear my mask, especially certain
mm,
places that I go, I still wear my mask. And, a lot of people like they act like they're offended
mm.
that I don't want to
Yeah.
get sick and I don't want to take it home to my elderly family, or, it's a lot. And
Oh,
then
it's a
we've had a
choice, right?
couple of new strains develop of COVID in the last couple of months. We've had a few, a few of the, what are they called when they mutate? A few
Mm,
mutations have popped up here.
yeah. Well, you Americans are very lucky. Why? Because you have economic stimulus and all of those help from your government. I think you guys receive like at least 1 grand, right? As
You had to qualify for it. You had to
the
qualify,
the,
you
the,
had to
the
ask
I mean,
for it, and you still have to pay it back.
oh, I see, I see.
So some of us opted out of taking a loan. 'Cause that's what it turned into. They said it was a grant and then it became a loan. And then when you file your taxes, they're like, "Hey, did you take that money? Because it's time to pay it back now."
I see. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. We have a Siba right here. I think she posted something in the chat box. Yeah. Hi, Anissa. Welcome back, and sorry to hear that you have been sick. I hope you're feeling better now. Yep.
Thank you, Hasiba.
And yeah,
You're
I want to
welcome.
ask
Back.
Hasiba and Grace, how was the exam? Were you able to finish the exam?
It was too hard for me.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna lie. I opened the exam and I was like, okay, I can do that one. What? Like, what is it? Oh my. And like,
Oh,
I
you
just
guys are
needed
making
some
me so
coffee. I needed some
nervous.
coffee. I needed to feed myself breakfast and like come back to it. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, I can do this. But there was a lot of second guessing, and I had to ask my boyfriend, like, that's right, right? And he's like, yeah, but it's not gonna run if you have a semicolon up in the middle of your line. So it's like little things like that where I was like, I really get it, let it get to me mentally.
Yeah, it made you think. I
Yeah, I
made it
guess
in a
that would
way that
be
it will
how you say it.
make you think. Yeah, it's
Even
challenging, but you need to invest more time really thinking. Is this even right? Is it even in a correct
And then
correct.
like the reorder section, I was like, I mean, talk about like triple, quadruple guessing myself. And I was like, I guess there's not a wrong way, but if you put the group in having by on the outer, then you'd just have to redefine what it was. And like, oh my gosh, I was really going into like the weeds, and I think it was close to 5 hours that I spent on it. And it didn't need to.
My
So,
God.
Well, I invested a day enhancing that exam, so it's not originally like that. But I thought of a strategy in how, yeah, you cannot just copy that and feed it to AI or anything.
oh,
As you probably observe, you cannot copy it, right?
Yeah.
I removed that option to copy that PDF. So
I had
I
to
made it
go
that.
to the recordings, to some of the recordings to see what to do.
Well, that ends the sequel session in a good way, right?
I hope
At
I could
least.
pass. I'm not sure if John review the
No,
test.
in most cases, I curb the passing grade. It's always flexible, so it's not rigid. Um, well, again, the intention is to evaluate if at the deeper level you really understood the concept. So that's what the exams are for. So it's not
Yeah,
to torture you. So it would be the same case with
it
Python.
was so stressful.
Okay, I think we're a bit discouraging Anissa, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this exam, guys.
Yeah. With Python, it would be of a similar nature, but with Python, you'll be doing an actual data set. You'll be doing more of a data science stuff. So that's the example that we prepared for Python. I think the easiest exam that you would ever take would be the Power BI. I mean, it's for me. If you're well, if you're into creative creative things like designing and those kinds of things, you will enjoy Power BI. So we put it at last because that is the easiest. So anyway, I think yeah we should start. So this is the first session with Python. So were you able to download or rather create an account in Google Colab?
No.
Okay, so we'll go through it today. See my slides. So Python is the most widely used software for data science. Um, we decided to include it in our cohort in our bootcamp because we feel that it's an advantage for you. Other bootcamps they only have Excel, SQL, and Power BI, but we've added this because if companies, well, slowly companies are looking for analysts that know how to do Python. And the good thing with Python is, compared to the other programming languages, it is the most, it it is the easiest to learn. The structure is quite similar to SQL in a way that it is created to follow the framework of the English language. So yeah, you native speakers of English, it would be um, it would be easier for you to follow the structure and the framework of the language and the functions, the name of the functions, they are very easy to remember because the name actually is doing uh, uh, what the name is implying. So in this discussion, am I sharing now? No, not yet. In this discussion, we'll be going back to a bit of the history of the programming language. Just a short discussion about that, and then looked into the advantages of Python as compared to the other programming languages that are being used in analytics and data science. Can you see my screen, John? Can you? Okay, thank you very much. So, what are today's plan? So, first we'll be having the overview, and then we'll set up our Google Colab. So, similar with Mode, we'll have one platform, Google Colab, for all of the discussion and practices. You can run Python in so many IDEs or integrated development environment. You can run it in VS Code, Visual Studio Code. You can run it in its own um, environment. You can download that, but it's very primitive, and there are less functionality as compared to other IDEs. You can run it in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, other companies they prefer to use Jupyter notebooks, um, and so many other platforms. So Python can be used to develop software, to create websites, both front end and back end. But it's most famous in the analytics field and machine learning. So if you're familiar with AI, well, definitely you're familiar with AI. It's very hot right now, and you usually start with Python in training an AI model. So that's actually my field of expertise, machine learning. I've done all of my thesis are under machine learning. So in it, you'll be training the system to learn through the data. So basically, the more data that you have, the better it gets. And companies are using it right now to develop this automated systems like the chat gpt. It's trained in like 8 billion parameters, and it has the ability to access the internet. And well, I think in the 20th century, this chat gpt is one of the most remarkable invention of humankind, and it will continue to grow. It would, if you're in a field that this generative AI could take over, then you should think ahead and plan carefully, because the growth of this intelligent system would be exponential. This large companies are pumping billions of dollars into into this into this industry, and they are getting very well at it. The researchers. So we can see some revolutionary things in the next 5 to 10 years. It might be difficult for us to distinguish a real thing versus a generated one in the future. Very difficult. It's very difficult to identify if something is synthetic or not. Well, in reality, philosophically, there's so many fakes today. Fakes in a sense that it's a real thing, but it's not really functioning um, its intention. So AI would make it worse. So yeah, those are some things that we need to be prepared of. Okay, so let's do Python overview. So what is Python? It's developed in 1990 by a programmer named I don't know how to pronounce this correctly, but it's Guido van Rossum. Guido van Rossum. I think he was from Amsterdam, John? Was it Amsterdam? Okay, I can totally recall the location. It could be Amsterdam or Denmark. I could not totally recall, but the name of the developer was Guido van Rossum, and he developed it in a way that the learning curve is very short. Um, if you want to start with learning how to code, then Python is the best to start with. One of the most popular general purpose programming languages, very adaptable, um, very easy to learn. So it can easily be combined with other programming languages as well. So Python is a high level language. It cannot be understood directly by our computer, so it has to be interpreted to machine language on the go. And it's very popular for beginners due to readable syntax. Similar with SQL. If you found SQL to be intuitive, then you will find Python to be more intuitive. Okay. Generally speaking, Python is easier to learn as compared to SQL. And the current version is Python 3 point something. I think they just released the most recent one, but it's still 3 point. I can't really recall the decimal numbers in there. So it can be used in web applications, data sciences, artificial intelligence, image processing, operating systems. So me, I personally, I do have experience working with Python through data science, AI, and image processing. So I think it was 2022. I developed this system. I connected my computer to my webcam, or no, 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 not webcam, but security camera, and I developed this image recognition system. So I trained a model based from pictures. Um, you can also identify if uh, it's a person or it's a dog or a cat. So you can easily do that with Python, and there are tons of packages that you can utilize in doing so. So those are some of the projects that I want you to work on even after graduating here, because your future employers would be very interested in knowing your previous projects. Okay, it's nice that you have that portfolio. It shows that you have an experience in doing this stuff. So it's not really sufficient that you underwent this training. You should have you should start developing a portfolio of projects. And then, yep, let's set up Google Colab. So let me see. I want you to open your browser if possible, and let's set up our Google Colab. Find my Colab. I also developed a snake game before. Let me see if I can find the if I can find that project here, or probably it's on my other computer, or maybe it's in here. Let's see. No, it's not in here. So I used a different IDE in doing that. So let me think. Let me show you some things. Let's try this one. I think this is my source codes when I developed my machine learning model for predicting defaults uh, from the data set of home credit, which is a point of sales financing. Do you have home credit in the US? I think it's famous in Europe, but in the US, I'm not sure. Do you have that? Like, for example, guys, you don't have any credit card and you need to finance your purchase. So there is this. company that offers a point of sales financing for those people uh without any credit cards. Are you familiar with that, or there's a different company in the U.S. for that?
It's a different company. There's actually quite a few. It's becoming more popular, but
Mhm.
like there's a lot of like they're trying to regulate it so it doesn't become predatory because then like
Yeah.
the interest on them can get crazy or the terms on them and people don't know about it and
Mhm.
stuff. But yeah, they're not that popular right now.
Yeah, the interest rates are a bit higher compared to credit cards. However, um, I think they are more lenient. So basically, it's more risky for them. So the interest kind of offset that higher risk for the company. So, but I think in the U.S., credit card is the most dominant because you have Visa and Mastercard and the American Express. I personally use American Express. Um, I do have my
What I'm seeing
credit
now
card.
with credit cards, interestingly, is like when you make large purchases, they're offering a flex plan when like
Yeah.
when the statement sees it, like, hey, do you want to break this up into four different
Yes.
payments? So it's kind of that idea, but it's still within the credit card. Otherwise, there's like websites that are like offer financing, like
But
shopping websites, but not they don't like they're not very like big in and of themselves.
mm,
Yeah, I think you're right. Credit card is still king here. So
yeah, that option is, I think, giving them more revenue as a result, because you will have a different
right.
interest rate if you split it up, right? If you split up the payments, so it's
Yeah,
an
if
option
if
for them
if
to.
you split it up into like two, there's like no interest. But once you get that monthly to something comfortable, they're like, okay, but we're gonna add an extra $8 on it, an extra $30 on
Yeah,
it, depending on what it is.
yeah, yeah. So this was from that project. Let me show you other things as well that I did. Let's see. Mm, Yeah, this one was I think the last the project about albuminaria that I generated using Python. So we added this visualization to show the odds of having macro and microalbuminuria for gender for this different variables. And as you can see, the highest odds for getting microalbuminuria is from this variable cholesterol. It seems that the higher cholesterol level is, the more likely that you will get microalbuminuria. Okay. So, yep, and the this one was actually just like a prevalence from the data set. So you can easily create this nice visualization. In fact, you can create um, interactive visualizations with Python. So that's why well, originally I wasn't using Power BI because I feel that Python offers more flexibility as compared to Power BI, because Power BI is like a point and click software. So what's available would be the only things that you will be able to use, as compared here that you can develop from scratch. So you can customize it in a way, well, depending on your preference. And once you were familiar with the fundamentals, you can use AI, just like what you're seeing here. I chat here so that I don't need to start everything from scratch. If I want to finish the project quickly, I can just ask ChatGPT, create me a framework in running a multiple linear regression. For example, suppose that I want to model a certain variable, um, and I have this hypothesis that it is linearly related with other um, independent variables. Oh no, I should be asking it here. So um, yeah, for some reason it gives me this error. But anyway, yeah, with AI now, everyone can be a developer. That it well, here's the thing: people are really getting scared with AI, but the way I see it, it's like similar to fire. I think if we go back eons ago, when 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 humans discovered fire, probably they were afraid also. But the moment they knew how to utilize it as a tool, then it became so useful. So I think AI is the same. It it magnifies our capability, right? Humans are so good with it. If you try to compete on a race with land animals that are very fast, you would likely lose. But if you give a human this opportunity to build a tool and then compete again with this land animals in a race, I think humans would be able to develop a tool that would smoke all of this other animals in a race. So we're very good at it. We're very good in utilizing tools. So while AI poses so many dangers, we can also take advantage of its capability of magnifying our skills. So recently here in the Philippines, someone without any background in programming developed a software that is related to how should I say this? That is related to tourism. So if, for example, you visited a place here in the Philippines, it would shade this place on that map, and depending on the duration, if you slept there or if you stayed there a couple of hours, then it would be a different color. So it went viral, and I've seen in the news that the guy who developed that doesn't have any background in programming at all, and he utilizes ChatGPT in order to create that framework. So from the idea, okay, well, ideas, they are boundless, right? If you're imaginative, if you're really thinking outside the box, you can think of this very innovative ideas, and you have their AI to help you execute that idea. Before, you need to look for someone, right? You need to develop a team, create a team to execute and make it a reality. But now with AI in your arsenal, you can easily execute the thing. So you can make your ideas turn into reality. So I think that's one advantage of this technology. And maybe soon you don't really need to type anything. You can just say, similar to are you familiar with Iron Man? Definitely. Tony Stark, Jarvis. So maybe in the future, you'll just need to talk to your computer, and you just have to develop those ideas, and your AI would be helping you turn that into reality. So I think that would propel us really into a different higher type of civilization. Okay, so this is Google Colab. So enough of that talk. You can easily create that account if you Colab. Yeah, if you type this in your browser. Hi Jeff, welcome to the meeting.
Hey Jeff, sorry, I got caught up with something, so a little bit late.
Yeah, no worries. We're just starting up. We're trying to install. Colab, not really install, but create an account for this platform that we'll be
Oh,
using for Python. So please let me know.
where did I go? Where is this?
You can check the chat box, Jeff, and I posted the link in there. So it will ask, I think, for your Google
Okay, thanks.
account. Yeah. So Colab is the platform that Google has for well, not only for Python but for other programming languages as well. But it's mostly uh, Python that's being used here. I'm very excited in what AI can do for increasing the life expectancy of people. I think we're slowly getting there. Um, we can understand more the complexities of the human body and also understand how this diseases um, and the likes affects our body. So I think we will have medical breakthroughs in the upcoming years.
Hmm.
Even in finance, I saw an article that AI had better performance, at least seven times better as compared to the typical um, finance people. So
Yeah, but I
that's
mean, it's kind of funny because I saw like on one of our show
hmm,
called the Daily Show here, and they were just saying like how like in the future it's all gonna be like prompt engineers. Those are the new
yeah.
positions. But then like he was just
The
saying
prompt
like
engineering is actually very interesting.
it's very
Very
interesting. But
interesting.
he said essentially it's gonna be the asking the question guy.
Exactly. You need to be familiar in how AI
How
answers
AI
questions.
answers your question, how you should
Yeah, so that
tailor the
you can frame
questions.
it in a way
Yeah.
that well, basically this AI they would function really well if you ask the correct question and if you ask it in a correct way. So it basically works based on the input. So if you know how to like do a workaround on that, then you can really maximize its capability.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's why prompt engineering is really um, it has a nice name, but basically
Yeah, it's
knowing
basically the
how
asking the question guy.
exactly. So they
I
will
want to be the asking the questions guy.
exactly. Most people when they hear that role, prompt engineering, seems like it's very um scientific role, but in reality, it's not. It's just
No, but I think
being
it is
familiar
gonna
enough.
be kind of not like everybody does it well, right? It's like you're gonna
Yeah,
be like you said, you're gonna need to know how to because sometimes things get really complicated. You need to be able to frame the questions.
yeah. But however, I think as AI becomes smarter, I don't think that this role would be long term. I think they would
No, I think that's
outgrow
still because you
the
still want to
need.
be able to tell the AI what to do, right? Kind of. Or
Yeah,
maybe like you're saying, like AI might establish a new system that they might just repeat. They might just do that everything themselves from the beginning.
yeah. I think that there would be something in the near future that would allow them to like pinpoint easily what you really want
Yeah.
to know. Is what I'm thinking. Let me see the chat box, and he says knowing how to ask a question is really a superpower. Yeah, yeah. I think going back to the days of the ancient Greeks, I think someone I forgot the name of that philosopher that says that we need to. It's more important to know what to ask right? I think it's a secret to. I don't want to go deeper on that. It's this is not a philosophy class. So anyway, are you good with collab? Can we move on? Anissa, Grace, Siba, Jeff. Now,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
okay,
because for I think for many of us, we already have a Google account, so it just
okay,
opened up
perfect.
and our page looks like that. What you're sharing, so.
Okay, okay, perfect. So let me just give you a quick tour. Once you're here, what you can do is to create a new notebook. You go to File and you have this options for creating a new notebook. If you have existing one, then you can open them. You can upload a notebook. So you might be thinking, upload a notebook. So does it mean that Google Colab works offline? The answer is no. So there are other notebooks like the one I said earlier, Jupyter notebook that would allow you to do the same thing, have the same platform as with Collab. You can save a copy in a drive and so on, or in your GitHub. Okay, I think you have your GitHub set up, right? You can also download it as a Python notebook. So this IPYNB means Python notebook, and this one is just a Python file. Okay, and there are other things here that you don't usually use because there are shortcuts. So I rarely use this tabs right here. So let's create a new notebook. So when you click the new notebook, it might look a bit different. You might have a white background. I hate a white background for so many reasons. It hurts my eyes so much. So if you want to change that, you go to Tools, you go to Settings, and then you can change the themes here. You can bring it back to a lighter background. Obviously, I don't want that. You can make it adaptive. So adaptive means it's copying the theme of my computer. So my computer is running on, even my browser is running on a um, dark theme. So it's just I well, it's just more comfortable for me. The dark theme. So it depends on you, of course. It's your preference, and you can once you're working on projects with higher complexity, you can subscribe to Pro. So with Pro, you would have higher allocation of computing capability because this collab is not using your computer's resources. So it's actually using cloud computing. So the computational capacity from Google. So if you need more, I think the allocation is only for free. I think it's only 12 gig. Let me see. Where can I find that? Um, I forgot where to look for that. Let me see. Resources. Hmm, can't find the thing. Yeah, if I can remember it correctly, it should be around 12 gig. And when you're doing complex calculations, you might need more than that. So in those cases, you need to purchase a subscription, and that subscription would increase your computational resources. So there was only one time that I felt that I need more computational resources when I was training my Bitcoin prediction uh, model. So I developed, I think, 2023 last year. It was a holiday here in the Philippines, like a week. and I also happen to have no classes with Skillspire, and I have more time. So I felt that okay, I can do a project during this week. I developed a Bitcoin prediction model during that week, and because of the number of parameters, I needed more than 12 gig. So it really depends on like the size of data that you'll be analyzing, number of parameters that your model would be um, would be using, even the algorithm. So the algorithm that you'll be training your model on, uh, those identifies if you need more computational resources. So here's this. So this is the place in which you will be writing your code. Let me put here is the place where you will be writing your codes. Can zoom it a bit so that you can see it, and we can remove that effects again. Go to settings and I think somewhere here, miscellaneous. So you can change that to no power. And if you want to have this cute characters running around your screen, you can put them here through that option that I showed you in the settings, and they would be moving around your screen. Um, it serves no purpose aside from being cute. Okay, it doesn't speed up your computation. It's just there because I think programmers and data scientists don't have enough social interaction. So at least they see other things in there aside from the codes. Somehow maybe reduces their stress levels. I'm just guessing, but yeah, if you want those characters in there, you can add them. What other things in here? You can connect it to your GitHub. You can change the font size here, the font styles, and so on. Yeah, let's show the line numbers. I think that helps. And what other else? You can add the text. So if you want to add notes aside from, of course, using quotation marks, then you can add a text in there. So I am a text. So of course there will be no errors in here. So it's just a way for you to um, add the discussion in your codes. So you can also write a book in here. There are other software that you can link with Colab and even R programming languages, so that yeah, when you're writing something like you're writing a book or a lecture, you can convert it easily to like a different different format. So yep, any questions, guys, about this? And you can easily just let me know. You can interrupt me anytime. You can change the name of your file just by clicking on this thing. Say Python first class. So it's a Python notebook currently, Python notebook format. And the things that you're seeing right here, you can create a table of content and like create a segregation of your code. So you can create here. Maybe I can just show to you this. Um, MBA. Where's my MBA thesis? Oh, I think it's on my different. Yeah, this one. My MBA thesis was also on machine learning. So you can present your codes in a setup like this on table of content so that you can easily go to different sections easily. So it's easier for you to go back to those sections when you set it up like that. And then this one, find and replace. I think the good old Control F also works in here. So Control F also works. So if you don't want to click on this, in fact, I don't use this one. There's Control F that you can use to look for something. And secrets, I did not have any opportunity to put my codes in secret. Well, there's a way actually to fold parts of your code. So I use that instead of this. So for example, you have sensitive information there. Imagine that you need to connect your drive to your Python IDE because you want to extract the files in there, or even connect your Python IDE to your email so that when it receives this email from a person, it would automatically notify your phone. That's um that's nonsense. That's a bad idea because you can just connect your email to your phone or install it. That's a weird thing. Anyway, you can hide it so that for example, it's shared to other person. There will be a password to that section of the code. They won't easily uh, see those sensitive information. And you have here the files that you also have at the top earlier. So snippets and command palette, things that I don't typically use. Um, this one is for Pro. So yep, I think that that's all for the things that you can click in Collab. Um, what else? Let me think. Mm, you can share it. You can share codes. Like for example, um, if you click on this, you can generate a link that you can share to your coworkers or to your partner or the- your partner in the project. So you can edit it simultaneously, similar to the Google Docs and um, those things that you can simultaneously edit live. So this is a nice functionality because typically in the industry you'll be working with pairs or on pairs. So um, I think this is a good functionality. You cannot do this with Jupyter Notebook. With Jupyter Notebook, it's only stored in your local device. So if you're working on a team, then Colab is much better. Um, yeah, I think that's all. I think we can start writing our first code in Python. Any questions, guys? Anything that you, oops, just like that, I accidentally accidentally closed. No questions? Anything that you're curious about, Collab? So what's your first impression? How do you find this platform? Is it good convoluting, like uh, so many things to click on? Well, compared with Microsoft Excel, this is significantly less, right? So if you're familiar to that kind of platform with so many things to click, then I think this is uh more minimalist, I should say. No questions? Nothing that you're curious of? Should we start writing our codes? So what happens if, for example, you lost internet connection? What would happen to your code? The good thing is, it saves automatically everything that you're writing. It's actually a safe like a safe thing functionality with Google Colab. Like for example, there were times that you would be encountering this errors and it would require you to close the browser. Don't worry because it's automatically saved. So you see this status in here. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. I think we should start writing our code. Similar with the pace that we did with SQL, I will be starting from the basics, fundamentals, and then slowly transition to the intermediate. And once you are familiar with the typical functions that are being used with Python, especially for analytics, then we transition to analyzing actual data. Okay, and here, well, in analytics, programming is not everything. You need to be critical thinker. So you are combining your thinking prowess with your programming prowess. Okay, so it's not everything that you know how to code. You should develop that ability to think of a solution, um, think on how the variables interact with each other in a deeper level, those kinds of things. Have you seen the trial of Facebook before? I think it was last year when their data scientists exposed the dangers that Facebook has for children, especially among teens, female teens. Have you seen that? They already know. Just to give you a background of that, the data scientist, previous former data scientist of Meta, exposed that the the conglomerate already knew that the platform has a negative effect on the well-being of children, particularly teens, female teens. For example, one discussion that was done was about the mental effect. Because, for example, if you're like suffering from your weight and you see this so many things related to it, uh, I, I'm I- I'm losing the words that I should say, but basically, if you look at the data from 2010 when this social networks was first offered to the masses, and you compare it with the incidence of depression, there's a positive correlation. So starting 2010, something happened that made the incidence of depression really high. So this social networks, this social media is one of the factors because it seems like people are very happy. They are very beautiful. If you look into Instagram, They will be posting places. They will be posting food. Imagine during the pandemic, mm, there were so many people that were hungry, starving. They lost their job, and there's this people posting their food, delicious food. It has a negative effect. Um, and tons of misinformation, cyberbullying, all of those stuff, um, sexual contents. Uh, you should check if you go back 2010, earlier than 2010, you would see that there's so much drastic change in the incidence of depression as compared to after the social media came into being. So something has to be done, and that was identified by their data scientists. It was exposed that they already knew about the significant impact, and they were looking for ways. So they already knew, and that's why they are trying to tone down the content, looking for ways in how to mitigate it. The Netflix movie was a social dilemma. Is it? I've never seen that, Grace, but
There's a
I'll
whole
be checking
documentary. There was a whole
about that issue.
documentary exposing this. Yeah,
Wow.
everything. What was it was all. I even forget there was like the slightly British company that was doing the
Mhm.
analytics for this and all that stuff. They mention it all. Yeah.
Wow.
And they
So,
get into
mm,
that and then the whole like addictive nature of using
mm,
social media applications and
yeah.
how it's akin to like gambling and those kinds of hits to our dopamine and
Mm.
stuff.
That's one thing. It's nice that you raised that, Grace. These companies know more about us than we know ourselves. They are trying to learn our subconscious. Like if you look at watches, you would observe that they're presenting it like in a okay. Let me show it to you. You would observe that most of the watches they are shown with the time 10:05. Let me show you this. Most of them, those mechanical ones. So you see all of them. This is 10:05. This is 10:05. 10:05. Why do you think so? This one is not, but it has that V shape. Why do you think that these watches are always, especially during marketing and advertisement, they are shown with the time 10:05? This one is 10:05. It's not something that happened accidentally, right? All of these watches, right? They're 10:05. Aside from this one, of course, but as you can see, it has that V shape. Do you know? Oh, not a video. I don't like a video. It's not accident. It did not happen accidentally. This is V 10:05, 10:05, 10:05, 10:05. All of that are Versace. So let's look for others. So this one 10:05, 10:05, 10:05. Why? It's something, right? Why do you think so? Companies are pumping billions of dollars on research because they want to pinpoint how they can convert us to consumers. And even this slightest thing, like this watch is smiling back at us. the way the hands of the watches are presented, it has an effect on our subconscious. It seems like it is smiling towards us. It's like inviting us to buy. Okay, and there are so many subtle things in marketing that on the surface you don't realize it immediately, but what's being attacked on us is our subconscious. Okay, this happened all started with um what's that yellow snack that's popular in the US with a red orange packaging, cheese flavor.
Cheetos?
Che- Cheetos, yeah. So there was a study before with Cheetos, and they identified, they found out that for some reason people love the orange sediment that's being left when people eat Cheetos, and then in their um, succeeding advertisements, all of it, all of them are focused on that sediment, those things that would be left on your fingers once you eat fritos, that orange uh, sediment. So I just want to put it simply, all of this, all of this that marketing is doing are based on years of research, data, and they were able to understand how we choose things, our preferences. That's why consumerism is really uncontrollable, right?
You
Uncontrolled.
know,
There, yeah.
I googled the 1005 thing because I've
Hmm.
never noticed that, and Google's response was that it frames the brand's logo and name by putting it at 1005.
Yeah,
Interesting.
there are also others that say that subconsciously it's like smiling towards you, and if you're into watches, it's it's um, like more appealing to you when something is like smiling back at you or something like that. So yeah, it also like for example, this Rolex, you have the logo in there, so it makes the logo and the name of the company like a centerpiece, right? It has like a um, it put emphasis on the logo, on the name. So there are so many things on this. If you will become observant on like the advertisements on the TV, there are so many subtleties that you can find that are, well, being used by these companies to get our attention and to have us buy more. Uh, well, our economy is basically structured in a way that more consumption is always better. Um, it's one important element of growth. However, it made so many people miserable. Like iPhone, every year they're um, they have this new models. They have this uh, they always say new and improved, but they just change the position of the camera because people are addicted to everything that's new. Uh, New packaging, we feel that it's better. It's a way to trick our brains. The sale, the sale tag on when you go to the mall, those are affecting us subconsciously, making us buy more, even if we don't need it. So anyway, going back to codes, okay, um, the print statement. So I think this is also the thing that we started with SQL. We started with the print statement. So every language has a syntax for displaying or printing something on the screen. In Python, it looks like this. Okay, print data. So this is the framework. So the function that allows us to do explicit printing or explicit displaying is through this print function. Okay. Now let's have an example. So it's an age-old tradition to start learning a new programming language by printing "Hello World" on the screen. Let's try it. Okay. So I want you to go to your collab, um, and then let's start printing "Hello World." So this is the function. Okay, print, and then we will be enclosing it into in quotation marks, right? And then parentheses. And then how do we run? So similar with mode, you can do Control Enter, or you can just click on this play logo. Okay. Once you do that, it would start a kernel, a Python kernel right here. It says connecting, and once it's turned green, then there we go. This is the one that I was looking for. Yeah, it's 12.7 gig. This is for the free version. And then this is my disk space. Now you see that this is the output. Hello world. I think I forgot the exclamation point right there. So in Python, as compared to SQL, the single quotation mark and the double quotation mark functions the same way. Okay. However, as we will be observing later, um, you can take advantage of, well, we will learn how to use or when to use a double and a single. Because there are other functionalities that you can associate with just one single, with just single quotation mark and the double quotation mark. We'll have a focused discussion on that. Okay. So now we're able to create your first code in Python, run your first code in Python, the good old hello world. And I'm thinking why hello world is very famous in programming, regardless of the programming language. I might need to go back to
I already
history.
got an error message.
Oh, what error is it? Uh,
Do I have to put the numbers? Like I did print hello world, nothing. So I put one print hello world.
no. This is automatic. Those are line numbers that you can remove by going through the settings. Can you read to me the error, Grace?
Invalid syntax.
At line what? It would
Line,
it would
yeah,
if
file
you
line
do this,
one.
it would give you actually the idea like this caret would give you an idea on like the position of the error. Can you post a screenshot in the chat box and let's debug it together? Maybe the others would encounter in the future, so
It's
it's better
pointing
that
to
they.
the P. Okay, so don't put the numbers, right? Just put print.
Yeah. You don't need to put the numbers because those are actually line numbers that are automatically assigned. And I can actually remove that so that it won't confuse anyone. Let me
Okay,
see.
it worked.
Yeah. Let me remove that. Yeah, you can remove that here. You can also have it activated in there. So, yep. So congratulations on writing your first Python code. As you can see, the functions in Python for, well, for explicit printing is print, which is very intuitive. Now, one one advantage that IDEs, or again integrated development environment, is offering us is we don't actually need to do explicit printing. If you want to see something, like I can just type it directly and it would automatically know that I want to print this. But what it shows is everything, right? All of this thing. So I can remove this, right? And um, Oh no, no. If I remove that, I have to. Yeah, it won't work because it will be regarded as a variable. So, let me think. Okay. So going back to the thing that I was discussing earlier, you can only do this with IDEs. That you can do explicit printing like this without the print function because the IDE automatically identifies what you want to do. Okay. So that would be similar to just saying print 3 plus 6. It will just give you the same thing. And okay, let me think other things. So there are instances in which using the print is actually advantageous. So if you're trying to run a recursive code that responds based on the result of the print, it would require you to use the print function in that case. So we'll be having that. We'll be having that um, case during the conditional statement session in which a print statement would be required. But what I want to highlight here is that with IDEs, you can actually print those things even without the print function. And oftentimes, I don't use the print function when I just want to view the results immediately. Okay, you can just immediately type it in there as is and then run it. As long as the code is on point, then you will get the result. Okay, so that's printing. So hello world here is bounded by a quotation mark or quotation marks because it is a string or a group of characters similar to SQL. Um, in SQL, remember that the double quotation mark is reserved for what? Anyone? Where's the double quotation mark reserved for? Hasiba? Can you remember the difference between the double and the single quotation marks in SQL? So it's reserved for columns, right? So the double quotation mark is reserved for columns. However, here in Python, they're just basically the same. But we'll see later on that um, we can partner the single and the double quotation marks with another function, and um, that's when you'd be guided in what to use, whether the double or the single. But they function the same way. Okay, it's just that we can partner it with other things when it is on a single or when it is on a double. And printing a few number, we already did that. We even added numbers. So there are two types of numbers here. Actually, there are four. Whole numbers, okay, those are integers such as 50, and there are floating point numbers or floats. We'll be discussing that. And there are this complex numbers. There's a part of real, and there's a part imaginary, and there's this infinite. So there's a label of infinity here. And
Jeff,
yep,
how how do you define? How would you put the definition of what print is? Like, why? What is print? Why are we using that?
yeah, print this is like explicit. It's an explicit output. So you're explicitly uh, saying to the system to output this. And outside IDEs, um, the only way to display outputs is through the print function. We're only able to do this without the print function because we're working on the IDE, and the IDE allows us to do what we call an implicit printing. Did I answer your question, Grace? So
Yeah.
printing using
Yeah.
the print function is called explicit display of outputs, explicitly saying to the system, okay, show this. But just writing it this way, it's perfectly fine, and we call that implicit printing. There are advantages as well. Again, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing recursive things, then having the print function is better because it allows your system to identify, okay, what would be the basis of my next output when I got this or greater than that or any other conditions. So in those cases, you'd be needing to have the print statement there because what shows in the on the result would be the final answer. Okay. Um, let's see. Let's go back here. So printing multiple pieces of data. So here, instead of just printing one element or one object, everything in Python is an object. So we can use this framework. For example, we can do print 50,000, 3.142 in just a single print function. We just have to separate them by a comma. So I would be printing, okay, my name first, which is Jeff, my age, okay, for example, 18, my gender, uh, my, giving me this, hey, what is that? Okay, there we go. Um, yeah, I think that's okay. So I can put all of those elements and then separate them by a comma, and it automatically identifies that yeah, this is just one line. And I can even assign this, like for example, grade. Just I want to store it. We will be talking about variables later on, but I can even add here the grade that I created at the top, and it will display it here. Okay, so we can put any other things. We just separate them. We just need to separate them by commas. Okay, do you follow? Print is an integral part. That's why I started with it. Even with SQL, I started with print, right? The class is the most basic one, but also a very useful function. So, yep, and then we proceed to comments. Can you remember how to create comments in SQL? One,
Is that the dash dash thing?
the double dash. The double dash is what we use in
Dash dash sounds
SQL.
better.
Yeah. However, yeah, okay, that's good. If you try it here, it would throw an error because we use a different method when we create comments in Python. So we use the hash mark. So I am now a comment. So all of this line would now be regarded as a comment because similar with SQL, Python is reading your codes from left to right. So once it encounters this hash mark, it knows that all that follows would be comments. Even I add numbers here, it would be now comments. Okay, so it won't give you any error. It's just a matter of like giving your code a tag, something like that. But if I say 6 plus 2 in here, okay, as you can see, it's reading it from left to right, then it will give you a result. But uh, uh, this is invisible um, in the perspective of the system. It doesn't see that. Once it encounters a hash mark, okay, this is just for the programmer for a tag or whatsoever. Okay, do you follow? Give me a minute. I need to open my AC. I'm feeling uh just realized that it's already almost 10 a.m. here and it's getting really hot. Any questions with this, guys? So as you can see, even if I place this spaces here, uh, what's happening is this. When the system sees this, 6, and then an operator, it would expect a number. So until it sees a number, it won't stop. But if it encounters like k, it would think that k is a variable. If the variable k is not yet defined, then you will encounter an error. Okay, k is not defined. So we can define k. Like k is equal to 2. Now the system knows that k has a value of 2. And if we try running it again, it would see that value that we associate with k and it would remove the error. Do you follow? So it's reading your codes again from left to right. And even if we say put it in the second line, it would still read that up until the end of that line. It would still expect that to have something to be added to. If you run it, it would give you an error here. But in order to fix that, you can actually pair it with comma, rather parentheses, so that when it sees the parentheses, it would expect that there is a closing one. It sees an open parenthesis, so definitely it would expect a closing one. So it would find, even though there are spaces in here, it would look for that closing parentheses. Do you follow? So that's one way to like expand your lines of codes, and you don't want to like have it like a break, uh, line break. So uh, you can enclose it in parentheses. Do you follow? Some tricks. I'll be teaching you some other tricks in here that are not part of uh the slides. We need to understand how the codes are being run, how the codes are being seen by the system. Questions, guys? Questions? Now, what happens if it doesn't see any closing parentheses? So it would expect that, okay, there should be one in there, so it gives you an idea. Incomplete input. And the reason why I wanted to have that line number, it actually tells you the location of the error, which is pretty useful. Um, if we put it back, there you go. It tells you, okay, something's wrong at this part. Again, it doesn't see this, so K has no problem, right? What if I put the closing parenthesis here? Would it make any difference? What do you think? Or even in line 8, what could be the difference, guys? It will still be the same. Why? Once it sees this, sees the number, sees the operation, since the other element that is part of the operation, it would now look for the partner of this, right? The closing one. However, this one is invisible, right? So it will just print the thing right here, the sum. Do you follow? So it's just similar to this. It ignored the spaces, so it would also ignore this, even if we include like numerous spaces right there. It's just the same thing, just on the other side. Do you follow? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. Now let's go back here. Um, Similar with SQL, we take advantage of the use of the hash marks, or not the hash mark, but the comments, um, to leave notes for ourselves, or even for our coworkers that would also work on the codes. So it's very useful. It's a simple stuff that's very useful. Just okay. Now we proceed to variables. So what are variables in mathematics? How would you define a variable? Anyone? Something that is not constant, right? It could change values. It could change its nature. It's a variable. In programming, the easiest way to think of a variable is it's a container. This variable could be a matrix, right? It could be a matrix. It could be a scalar. It could be a vector of values. A scalar is that like the typical structure that we see with variables, like what we did here, right? This is a scalar. Then we can create a matrix out of something and assign it as a variable. So you can just think of it as a container. Okay, as simple as that. So it could also be an expression. You can label. You can put an operation inside a variable and assign it to other objects. Okay, so to put it simply, okay, aside from being a container, it's just a name to which a value can be assigned. Because aside from being a container, it could also be an operation. The variables allow us to give meaningful names to data. Okay, and a big advantage of variables is that they would allow us to store data so that we can use it later to perform operations on the code. And variables are mutable. Okay, mutable in the sense that the value of variable can always be updated or replaced. And when we discuss data structures, we will be seeing immutable objects in Python that once you have created it, you can no longer change it. Okay. So some naming conventions. We'll be going back to the creation of variables, but first we need to know how to name our variables. Okay. So it could be uppercase, starting with an uppercase, or everything is uppercase, or everything is lowercase. Okay. And what do you think? Well, it's good to know that you cannot use numbers at the beginning, but I want to know why. Why do you think that it's completely wrong? Of course, it will throw you an error, but why do you think that this is an incorrect way of naming your variable? Jeff, what happens when you put a number at the beginning of your variable name? What's going on under the hood? Okay. Any ideas from the others? Any ideas? It's completely fine to commit an error. At least you try.
Is it because it tries to compute once it sees numbers?
So it's gonna start
Exactly.
trying to.
Yeah, it reads from left to right. So when it encounters a number, it expects that you would be doing an operation with it. It could be addition or subtraction, division or whatever. But suddenly you have an I. So actually, when you write it, when you write 12 income in there, okay, at this point, there's already an error on I. Okay, so if you try running that, it would throw you an error here. Because once it sees I, okay, in the structure of Python codes, there's no 12I. Okay, 12I doesn't make any sense in its language. It's like saying a word in English that doesn't have any meaning. So once it sees that, it would give you an error such as this. So that's why we don't put number first in our variable names. Okay, but of course, you can put it at the last because it already considers it as 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 a string, right? What we can do with that now is we can associate it this way, and it's perfectly fine, right? We can print it implicitly or print it explicitly. It would give you the thing. So sometimes um, I name my variable this way. For example, var1, var2. It's completely fine to do that. And there's a specific name for this. Okay, there's a specific name uh, that's called a snake case. Okay, snake as in the animal, the reptile. Once you use that underscore to connect two words or a word and a number, that's what we call a snake case naming convention. And then, for example, that's a two word variable name, but you did not use any underscore. It's called camel case. So let me add it here. So this is snake case naming convention, and then we have convention, and then we have camel case. So for example, first, last. No, 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 actually, first name, something like that. Okay, so this is the camel case. You don't use any underscore. So I'm not also sure why they named it as camel, but that's how they call it. Uh, it's true for other programming languages as well. Okay, so all variable names are case sensitive. Why? Uh, let's observe. So say we have a number here with a capital or uppercase N. We associate it with 1. We have the smaller case N here, and we associate it with 2. If we print, okay, if we show number, it would be totally different as with the lowercase. Okay, what happens if we associate the second, like what if we do this? What do you think would happen? Anyone? What do you think would happen? It would overwrite, right? So this line 1 would be run first. However, it would see that, okay, you're trying to override what value associated with the first variable, so it overrides it. Okay, so as you can see, we not receive any error, but number now has a value of 2. Okay, it has a number of 2. And let me think. This is a common mistake. A common mistake that I also did in the past that cost me a lot of time. Okay. So suppose that you have a variable here, just a data. Let's say data. You have data is 35, just an arbitrary number, and that you equated data with data 2, thinking that, say, mm, um, no, no, no. Let me think. You have a data now, data 2. No, no, no. Should be the other way around. Data 2. Suppose that you're creating a copy. That's the thing here. You want to create a copy of your data named data 2 by equating it to that. You're thinking, okay, everything that I do with data 2 won't affect data. This it's a copy. It's not the case. In fact, if you multiply or you do any changes with data 2, it will also affect data. So let's say data 2, say you multiply it with a certain number, say 3. It would also do the same thing with data. Okay? So that's a mistake that cost me tons of hours early in my career because, well, here it's not very evident because we are just talking about numbers. But imagine you have a complex rows and columns of data, like tons of variables, and in order to for you to have a copy, you did this. You create a new variable supposedly by equating it to that, equating data to data. In reality, what's being done under the hood is it's just relating, it's just assigning a different name to data, but it's still the same. So whatever happens to data 2 would also happen to your original data. So if you want to have a copy of that, there's a function called dot copy. So for example, I want a copy of the data and I want to rename it as data 2. I can use this function. So this is a method that allows me to create um huh let me think. The dot copy function would allow me to copy. Mm, this hmm, can you remove this? Copy is not defined, of course. I was let me see. Dot copy. Int object has no attribute dot copy. Hmm. Let me try. Yeah, there we go. So here, if we look at data 2, we'll be discussing this data structures. Don't worry. I just want to show you that there's this function that would allow you to copy, and this is the typical process done. I mean, if you are familiar with other programming languages, this would ideally work, but in Python it won't. Because it's just assigning a new name for your original data, and once you screw with this, it would also affect this. Okay, so it's linked. This is linked to that. And what you want to do with a copy is that you want to maintain the original stuff, okay, the original structure of the data, so that you can go back to it once you screw things with the data that you're working on. So you can start like everything fresh with that original copy of your data. So once you print this, you would see that this is this data right here, and say we data to say drop Jeff. List. This is a list, so um, what what method are we using for list? Dot pop. Okay, so this is index 0, 1, 2, 3 dot pop. So Jeff, once we print again, yeah, you see that data 2 doesn't have Jeff now. We just opt out Jeff using the pop function. Don't worry, all of these methods that I'm using will be going all through of them, okay, in the succeeding session. I just want to highlight something right here. But if we go back to data, to the original data, this one, it will not be affected. It's still the same old data that we know, the original with the Jeff on it. So once you screw up with this copy, right? Imagine that you've done so many things with it, and somehow you realize that you made a mistake, and you need to go back to the original one. You can just rerun this. Okay, that's the thing that I want to emphasize on this. And uh, I should have known this earlier, but I think when I was doing my thesis way back 2021, that's when I realized that okay, I screwed up with the copying. So because I need to uh, use a dot copy instead of just assigning um, using this variable assignment symbol, equality symbol, to a new one. So doesn't this does not create a new variable, but just assigns name to the uh, first variable, another name, I should say. But basically, it's just the same thing. Whatever you do here becomes applied to the original one. Okay? Do you follow? Do you follow, guys? So let's go back to the naming convention. So the underscore character can appear anywhere. It's like a character, the character of a string, a letter. Spaces are not allowed in variable names. What? Why do you think so? Any ideas why spaces are not allowed? Let's have an example. Say I want to create a variable named my variable. See. Why do you think this is not allowed? How does the system see this? You can make a guess. It's perfectly fine to commit mistakes. Anyone? What's going on here? Well, it's not allowed. Hasiba, any idea? Any idea on why this is wrong? Okay, so let me provide the answer. So again, it's reading this. from left to right. Once it sees my, it would recognize it as a variable that should be stored in the system's memory, right? However, my is not defined yet, right? So that's the error that we will be receiving here. Okay, that my is not defined yet. However, you might argue that okay, what if we associate my with 3? Would it work now? It won't. Okay, it won't work. Oh, okay, I haven't run it yet. It won't work because while the system sees that this is equal to 3, it would be expecting an operation in between. Do you follow? Once it sees that space right there, it would think that, okay, there should be an operation. This is a number. So what are the operations that are expected of a number? It should be like a sum, okay? It should be multiplication or whatever. However, it sees another thing, another variable, which is supposedly variable, okay? Named variable. And in the memory, okay, it doesn't seize anything like that. So again, you might argue, what if we create another variable, say assign it to 2? Now you have a value. However, you don't have any operation in between. So still, it's still a problem, right? Do you follow? Well, now this the system sees as number 3. This the system sees as number 2. There's no operation in between them. So that's one error. And another thing, you are associating it, okay? The space is not a problem here, but you're trying to associate it to 3, okay? So what if, okay, what if there's an operation in between my and variable? What would happen? So let's have my plus variable. What do you think would be the result? It would be the sum, right, of 3 and 2 and 3 and 2. Because now there's a valid operation in between this, and the system knows that my is equal to 2 and variable is equal to 3. Okay, now we add the remaining parts of the thing at the top. So my plus variable is equal to 3. Is it a valid expression? You might be thinking, okay, is it not doing the same thing as with logical statement that you're trying to validate if this is equal to that? In Python, we use the double equality symbol to ask if this value is equal to the other one on the left or on the right. But once we do that, it's now a perfectly working expression that gives us a boolean equal to false, meaning the sum of this is not equal to 3. However, earlier, what we're trying to do here is to create a variable that is associated to 3, and we know that this is not proper. Okay? This is not correct. Do you follow, guys? Do you follow? So that's the reason for getting that error. That's the reason why you cannot have spaces in between your variable names. And that's the reason also why you should use either camel case without the use of the underscore or a snake case with the underscore. Okay, so that's how the system sees it. Okay, that's why you receive these errors. Okay, so that's why spaces are not allowed in variable names. So the name of variables, the last one, uh, the name of variable should be something meaningful that describes the value code. So this is um, like a guide that your variable name should be intuitive. You don't want to put arbitrary names in there. It would confuse you at the end. It would backfire. So, questions. Are the variable names valid? Annual salary. Hasiba, number 1. Is it valid? This one. Is it a valid variable name? No. The reason is there's a space. So even though you have an annual variable there, it would expect that there's to be an operation, either an operation for a number or an operation for a string. How about this, number two, Anissa? Is this a valid name? Number two? No, because once it hits a number, it would expect an operation to be done on it, right? So that's why two is not should not be there. Okay, that's also the reason why two is not valid. So number three, is this a valid variable name, Grace?
Yes.
Perfect. So the underscore is just the same as with the other letters. Okay, it would just be read as a typical character. So there's no issue with that. How about the last one, number four? Jeff, are you there? Is number four a valid variable name? Either you capitalize all of the letters or make it lowercase. It won't really matter at all, right? So there's no issue with number four. Okay. So another question: annual salary and capital annual salary are the same variable. The answer is easy, false. Variables in Python are case sensitive, so they are stored differently. Once you call the annual salary, the lowercase, everything lowercase, it's a different thing compared to, or an object, different object as compared to everything capitalized. Okay? Questions? Questions? Okay. Hmm. I think John can take it away from here. Data types. What do you think, John? Or okay. So I want you to complete this with John until data type so that you can work on the practices and the things that I prepared for you on or for the labs. Um, if you have questions, if ever anything arise from the discussion, just let me know. Or if anything confuses you, just let me know. Okay. So yep, that's all we have for today's lecture. Again, we're pacing ourselves. I don't want to bombard you with so many things during the first lecture of a new programming language, but we will be building on the complexity as we proceed along. Okay, just what we did with SQL. Okay, thank you very much, guys, and good luck. Good luck with this the discussion. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, John.
Okay. Hello. Hello, everyone. So I think before we proceed to our continuation for the lab session, is I think it's better if we will have a quick break. So let's have a 10-minute break and then let's finish the slides. There are, uh, I think, couple of slides left, but let's try to summarize everything so that we can establish the beginning of the Python class. So let's have a 10-minute break. Okay, I think we can continue now. Are you there, everyone? Anissa, Hasiba, Jeff, and Grace. Okay, thank you for the confirmation. Let me share my screen first. Okay, so on the introduction of the Python, uh, as of now, what are the things that we have already covered is the Python overview, the mean, where and who was the person behind this Python, Guido van Rossum. So some descriptions about the Python when it was developed, and some of its descriptions, like it is easy to understand because it somehow follows the English language. It is intuitive in the way that whatever the name of the function is exactly the thing that is it is doing. Like, for example, the print statement. Literally, you want to see something. If you want to print something, you want to see an output. So when you print something in Python, it will display you whatever is the value of that particular thing. And we also have some um, basic functions here, like the use of the hash marks or the hashtags as pertaining to comments. So we also saw this, and the variables and some variable naming conventions and variables. But the naming conventions and the variable, the thing that I can emphasize is give it a meaningful name. Don't just relate to having variable names as A, B, C, or those common things. Give it a proper name in a way that the first time that you look into it, you would already know what are the things that it stores. So that are the things that I can suggest, and the finish that is part on our discussions. There are uh, many things that we need to cover, but this will be fast. So this true or false, but but the thing in this presentation is you can already see the things or the answers of the questions, like annual salary and annual salary are the same variables, like on this question or on this previous thing. The thing written in uppercase letter and lowercase letter are different. So let us see that, like if I have a cell here and let's say I have a variable named data or written in uppercase, let's say it is equal to 2. And let's say I have another object named data, but in this case it is written in lowercase letter. If I print the uppercase letters, the uppercase letter data, it will give me whatever the value of this data is. So if I run this, so the reason why we run this is for Python to recognize and to to, to record the values for that data in uppercase is equal to 2 and data in lowercase is equal to 3. Now we will print the data, and in uppercase, as you can see, it gives us 2. But if we write it in lowercase like this, it will give us 3. So meaning Python is case sensitive in the way that even though these two words are the same, since there is at least one character there that has a different casing, it is recognized as a different thing. Like let's say this one is written in this way. D is the only letter that is different from the other. But even if that is the only thing, there is only one letter that is different from the other. it is still recognized as a different thing. Python will give us 3, and if we change the uppercase, it will give us 2. Don't worry, we will have practices on creating variables on our lab session tomorrow. We have a lot of time to practice this. Then I think I need to prepare a lot of practices because we need to establish the foundations in the Python. Okay, going back to this, we have the data types. So in the data types, if you are, since we already got the discussions on the SQL, we already have the discussions on the Excel, and somehow we have handled different tables. We have handled different data sets. So data types, somehow we have these ideas, but we will try to define it in the context of Python. In Python, it says that there are 3 main data types. We have numbers, we have strings, and we have booleans. So numbers, literally numbers. We have encountered this a lot of time. Typically, numbers are divided into 3 things, but we will just cover those 2 things are the parts of the basic number types. So let's scroll here a little bit. So Python, we have 3 different numbers. 3 different Python numbers, it is divided into 3. We have integers, we have floating point numbers, and we have complex numbers. But typically, at our level, and also on the data analytics, integers and floating point numbers are what we need. Complex numbers, it is needed when commonly it is typically used if our model is highly mathematical. Like if we are dealing with frequencies, I think complex numbers are needed. But at our level and our goal, we are just focusing on the integers and floating point numbers. On the SQL and on the Excel, we know that integers are those things that are whole numbers, meaning it doesn't contain any fraction, doesn't contain any decimal. Integer, it means a whole number. It can be positive, it can be negative. As long as it is a whole number, it is categorized as an integer. Floating point numbers or float, simply float. These are those type of numbers that contains decimal. It has a fractional part. So that's the only difference between integers and floating point numbers. So these are the things that I said. Integers, these are whole numbers, positive or negative. As long as it doesn't contain any decimal, it is an integer. Floating point on the other hand, it contains decimals. It's decimals. Second one, booleans. What are booleans, or simply bool? B-O-O-L. So if you see this word in the context of programming, it is a dichotomous type of data, meaning there are only 2 results. It is either true or false. Known as bool, boolean is known as bool, data types that allows us to choose between 2 values, either true or false. It is this boolean at the beginning of our practices, at the beginning of our courses. At this point, we don't know what's the purpose of this. But somehow on the Excel, we use this, but we did we don't know what's where is the true, where is the false. But in the context of the Python, it works the same way. Like, do you still remember the if statements? That's for this one is somehow fresh to all of us. But let us take a look on its structure, or I will not open Excel, but a word will do. So the structure looks like this. In the Excel, the structure of an if statement looks like this. If followed by open and close parentheses. The first thing is the oops, wait, let me type it. Condition followed by if this condition was satisfied, is this part is true. So this is the testing part. If that is true, give me this. So this is the value if that is true. Otherwise, this is the value. Like, that is the basic structure of the if statement rather on the Excel. We have a given condition, and if we break it down, if we deeply analyze how it works, this one has a test. It somehow asks, is this value equal to this? Like, is the cell if A4, if cell A4 is equal to 3, do this. Otherwise, do this. Somehow, at this point, at this part, there is a test. Whether this is a true or this is a false. It always asks the question, is the value at the cell A4 equal to 3? If true, present this. If false, present this. At the most, at its granular structure, its backbone is the Boolean. Like, based on this, this part only has two values. It is either true or false. If that if the value of A4 is 3, then this full statement is true. Therefore, this part will be returned. If this is not 3, therefore it is false. So in the context of Python, when we have Booleans, it, it somehow tests whether the given statement is true or false. In the context of the Python, we can literally see its output. Like, somehow we will ask, let's try something. Is 2 equal to 3? Like this. It is somehow, if we are using double, don't worry, we will explain it further at the if we encounter because we will encounter it on the future. This thing is very useful. But in this, we will just test, is 2 equal to 3? Okay. So it gives us false. But let's say this one is 3. 3 equals to 3. It is 2. So the thing in Python is based only on the actions of me. My only action. The first time uh, I studied Python, and also the feedbacks of the students in the cohort. At the beginning of the class, at this point, we don't know what's the purpose of why we are equating 3 into 3. Why we are doing this. Why we are doing this. At this point, it doesn't make any sense. But as we go along with the Python, as the complexity increases, we would understand why this thing needs to be understood. Why this thing needs to be explained explained very well. Because this thing will help us if we can understand it if we can explain it easily on ourselves. If we know what is happening on this and what would be the output, it would help us on the topics that are somehow advanced versions of this. Okay, so going back to the slide, Booleans only have two values. It is either true or false. So we have covered the numbers, we have covered the Booleans, and the other one is a string. Based on this, the first part, typically we have three main data types in Python. Take note of the term data types because in Python, we have this thing that we are calling data structures. Okay, so when we say data types, you should take note. You should when we say data types, the things that should be in your mind is this is numbers, this is strings, these are booleans. Those are the data types. Because data structures, right? That is another part of the discussion. And typically what I noticed is on the students, somehow they have hard time differentiating what's the difference between data types and data structures because both of them has data as part of the words, data types and data structures. But if at this point we will establish the definition of data types, when we encounter the data structures, we can clearly see their difference. But that's our goal. So at this point, the goal is establish the things that uh, I think, based on my experience, will give us a lot of confusion in the future. So we have covered numbers, we have covered booleans, and let's go back later on to practice for numbers. Oh, it doesn't have any strings. But the thing is, the concept of strings is easy. Literally, when we say strings, it has a letter. Doesn't matter how many letters, what's the casing. As long as that thing contains a letter, it is already considered as a string. So we know that in Python, numbers look like this. It looks like this. So data type, int, say it is 3. Data type float, let's say it is equal to 5.4. Data type full is equal to, let's say, and data type string, let's say John, or we can enclose it with double quotations. So to summarize everything, these are the main data types that we have. We have numbers that can be divided into 3, but our focus is only on the integer and the float. The only difference between these two is int has int, it doesn't contain a decimal, while the float, it contains a decimal. To put it simply, that is the convention. That is the simplest definition of float and integer. Data type Boolean, it hold can hold values of either true or false. So what we are doing here is we are creating a variable name. We are creating a variable name. We are assigning it something. That something, my point is, that something is this is a float. This is a Boolean. This is also a Boolean. This is a string. String, it is easy to determine if that particular object is a string. Okay, in Python, when we say object, we are pertaining literally the contents of the Python. So if let's say this line, this variable, this object, okay, because everything in Python is an object. So when we say objects in Python, I am just describing this, let's say this one. This object, since we have a quotation, it is already recognized as it is a string. So if you will enclose anything with a quotation, either single or a double, it will already be recognized as a string. And at this point, let me give you a very useful function that will give us what's the data type of that particular object. Let's say this one. We already know that it is integer. But what if we have Rust issues? Let's say you don't believe me at this point. Okay, let's ask Python. What's the data type of this? How can we do that? Let's say type. And then inside the parentheses, somehow, what is the thing that you want to be tested? Or you want to ask? Okay. I want to determine what's the data type of this object. So the only thing that is needed is the name. This one. Okay. What's the data type of this? Python will scan on its storage what's the meaning of or what's the value of data type int. It would see that it is 3. So somehow we are asking, what is the data type of this? Okay. When I run this, oops, main data type int. The reason why it gave us an error is I didn't click this a while ago, but let's try to run it again. And we can see it's an integer. This is an integer. Okay. In Python, whenever you type something, like here, I created a variable, let's say data is equal to 8. If I will print, or let's say maybe I have other data types here, so I would not see the point. Let's say test data. So I type new thing here. Okay. Let's say I will call that test data. Print test data. Let's see what would happen. As you can see, it gives us an error. Like it says that test data is not defined. What do you mean not defined? It's already type written. The reason why is did not run this cell. Meaning, the new thing or the new object that you created is not yet saved at the memory of Python. That's why when you told Python that print test data, Python don't know who is test data because you are not yet running it. So to avoid those kind of errors, sometimes that's the reason why we are getting errors. We are not yet permanently saving our created object. So now we already saved it. So if I run this part, you can see Python already know that it is 8. So I think I need to discuss the parts of like if you are in the Python, especially on the Google Colab environment. Let me discuss something that I think it's very important to understand the structure of this system that we are using. Let me open a new notebook first and let's see its parts. And maybe I will teach you some shortcuts that I found very useful. I find it very useful whenever I'm doing Python codes. Okay, so whenever we open Python, like a notebook, this part, this thing is called a notebook. Whenever we open new notebook, IPYNP, whenever we open this thing, this is the interface that you will see. You have this bar wherein you can type your codes. And at the top, if you will place your mouse at the top or even at this, you can add new cell wherein you can type your code. You can type your code here or here. Let's say data is equal to 1, data data 2 is equal to 2. Okay, so this cell is different to this cell. That's why if I run this, if I run this part, the first cell, the other cells is not yet saved. Meaning they have this sectioning wherein um, when you run this cell, the operations are only executed at this cell. Like let's say you have many codes here. Just imagine you have a lot of codes there that are functional. And you also on another cell you have a lot of codes here that are also functional. Since this cell is different from this cell, okay, if I hit this run button, the execution will only happen at this first cell. The other cells is not included. Okay. So why do I emphasizing this? Simply because that is also on confusion on the previous classes. That's why I am introducing it to you. You can rearrange the cells. Data 2, data 2 equals 3. Let's say you want this cell, the second cell to be at the top. You can hit this arrow. And transfer the cell at the top. And the good thing about the cell is, let's say you messed up with this part of the code. And you know that editing it by line will give you a headache. So it's better if I will just delete that particular cell. Okay, so if I hit this, so the others are still there. I only deleted that particular cell. So it is helpful if you think your code is if your code contains a lot of errors, and if addressing the errors is not efficient and you want to repeat the process, you can just delete that particular cell and the others would not be affected. What else? Shortcuts. You can hit this. Let's say you want to run this. After I run that, I will print it. Okay. Suppose you want to run this. After you type your code, let's say you have typewritten a lot of codes. It takes time, like to grab your mouse and to point here. Like you will find this button. It is somehow easy, but we can just follow the shortcut Control Enter, just like what we are doing on the keyboard. Control Enter, and it will perform the execution. What else? Control Enter will run that particular cell. To add another cell, instead of hitting this code button, we can type or we can like Control plus MP. Control MP. So from this, I will add another Control MP. I will add another Control MP. So Control MP. It is those minimal changes is, I think it is important. It will make your practice, or it will make your processes on the Python much faster and easier because you don't need to remove your hands on the keyboard. Control N, typically the things that we can use is the Control Enter, the Control MP. What else? The typical copy and paste, Control C, Control V. Because on the other platforms, let's say here at Google, let's say I want to copy this. There is an option to highlight the thing that you want to copy, right click, and then hit copy. So if that is the thing that you are commonly doing on other platforms, I think on the Python, that is not the case. Let's say I have a data here with the name data int by 35. So I will highlight this, right click, and as you can see, after I hit right click, these are the things that you would see. Oh, we have the copy selection policy. So I thought there's no option, but there's an option. But instead of right clicking it and finding the appropriate button, after you highlight that, hit Control C. You can copy it on other cells. Like that. What else do I need to highlight in Python? Okay, this I suggest you tweak your settings, and in your settings, give it. Do you see the numbers at the side? This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I suggest you activate that function wherein there is a line counter, so that when we have lab sessions, it is easier for me to pinpoint. Like on the line 6, you have an error there. So what do you think is the error on that one? So those conventions, like it is easier to pinpoint where is the error if we have a line counter. So what else? On Python, there is a way to record our, let's say you have an activity here. You have an activity here. Let's say create a variable that will store your first, say that's the problem. This is the problem number one. And I performed it. Like my I created a variable. I named it as first name is equal to, let's say, John. So I am assigning this into a variable name first name. So is it the reason why Python will recognize this as variable creation is because of the equal sign. So since I run this, Python already know that the meaning of first name is John. So whenever I print on the future, if I want to print first name, it will give me John. If I ask for the data type of the first name, it will test what's the data type of John. So suppose you are done on doing your activity, there is an option here to save it in PDF format. Go to the file, and hit print. And on the destination, select save as PDF. Save as PDF and save. And it will just ask you where do you want it to be saved. Python topics. And since I saved it on my desktop, I can open that as PDF file. Instead of this one, this Python practice. And as you can see, we have there the things that we did on our system. You can also see the question. You can also see the code. So saving files on Python is much easier than saving files on the system because there is already an option here to save our work in PDF file or PDF format. So I think that covers everything, but since we still have a time, let me ask you, what, um, how was the Python for you? Like, do you have any backgrounds on any other programming languages? Or somehow, do any one of you somehow familiar to Python? Somehow tried with Python before?
No.
So, like, this is the first time that you will do the Python. So
Yes.
I am asking this because so that I can adjust the practices in which we will do it in the way that we do it in sequence. Like the
Oh, yeah,
practices.
this is. Oh yeah, SQL. At least I've done it before. I've never even touched Python.
Mm. Anissa has experience. Oh no. So
Yeah, the
let's
only
break
Python I
down.
know is the one that can kill you.
Let's break down the Python in the way that we can truly understand. And what I want you to do for the Python is if there is a confusion, raise it as soon as possible. Okay? If there is a confusion, be honest. If you encountered any errors, don't hesitate to raise it so that we can solve it together. Just like what we did on the sequence. And what else? The reason why it is important to address the confusions on Python as early as the beginning of our classes. Is if we did not address it early, if it will compile, it will compound, it will affect our learning on the complex things. And in Python, the thing that I can say is trust the process, because there are there are practices in Python that be prepared, that somehow the reactions of the students are this. What's the sense of doing this? Like, let's say we have this, and there is a question. Okay, print this in the way that the letters are split, like HNOJ. Like, um let me see if I can still remember the simple part of there's the first thing. Do not mind this at this beginning, but there are some practices that requires you to do this. Like, the value is John, and I want you to print it in the way that it is split. So at this point, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why do you need to do something like this? Why do you need to print it? But on the Python, what I can suggest is trust the process. Like, um, the reason why we are doing this is not to just literally print or literally see the flip version of this string. The goal that we want to establish is what will happen if we are doing this particular syntax. Like, for example, if I will replace this number by -2, what will happen? So in those ways, we have these practices like we should be able to explain what is happening. And that's our goal when we are doing those practices. So in Python, at this point, especially at the beginning, some practices doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't see you what I mean is you will not see its practical application. And the reason why is we are just starting to establish how things are working in Python. And after we establish that fundamentals, like these things, that let's say when I replace it by 2, it returned me the H and the O. So why does thing is happening? We will if we can understand that part, if that part is already clear to us, we will transfer to the higher level wherein we will apply it on columns. We will apply it on tables. And there is a part wherein we can somehow replicate the things that we are doing. But before that, before we go on that level, we should be able to understand how things are working inside the Python environment. Those are the things. At this point, I like this is uh, an orientation, somehow an orientation on my part, as I am the one that will somehow guide you on the lab sessions. On the lab sessions, find any questions that somehow you don't see its practical applications. Uh, Typically, on those times, we are just trying to understand what is happening if we are using that particular. But as Python, uh, syntax important, like the structure, I will not recommend you to memorize anything on the Python. What I can suggest is understand its structure, just like what we are doing on Excel. The structure of the if statement is consists of three parameters. The first part is the condition. Second part is what is the thing that I want to see if this condition is true. And the third part is what is the thing that I want to see if this condition is false or not satisfied. So in the Python also, that is the thing that is very important for me, based on my experience. That is also the thing that's very important on Python in order for us to understand what is happening and fully understand what will happen if we do this, we do that. Okay, so in Python, we will have a lot of experimentations and we will make sure our group, we will have deep understanding. Yes. So let's break the things like if we have some confusions, we will raise it and let's try to learn how together. That's it for now. I will not give you any assignments. For now, try to think in all of the new stuffs that we learned for this session. And tomorrow we will have some practices, some practical questions. And I think that's it for now, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you, everyone. Thank you, Siba, Grace, and Lisa. See you tomorrow for our lab session. Thank you.
Okay.